They say the camera adds 10 pounds, but on Instagram it can add $10 million. It can turn a college dropout into a business guru. It can turn a rented apartment into a penthouse. And it can turn a liar into an idol. My sister, Chloe, is one of those idols. If you follow her and with 500,000 followers, you probably do know the story. She's the 24-year-old self-made millionaire, the queen of passive income, the girl who retired her parents before she could legally rent a car. Her feed is a curated gallery of perfection. Brunch in Dubai, shopping sprees on Rodeo Drive, that sleek, lime green Lamborghini parked outside a mansion that she implies is hers. And then there's her signature course, the Boss Babe Blueprint. For just $2,000, she promises to teach you how to escape the rat race, just like she did. It's a beautiful story. It really is. My parents certainly believe it. My name is Maya. I'm Chloe's older sister, and if her life is an oversaturated photograph, I'm the negatives, the dark, honest reality that gets cropped out of the frame. I'm an accountant. I live in a one-bedroom apartment. I drive a Honda with a dent in the bumper that I'm too cheap to fix, and while my sister is busy manifesting abundance on a yacht, I'm usually at my parents' house, helping my dad figure out why his electric bill went up by $12. My parents, God, they love her. They are good, simple people. My dad, Robert, is 68. His hands are permanently stained with grease and concrete from 40 years of construction work. He should have retired 5 years ago, but he says he likes the work. I know he just needs the money. My mom, Ellen, is the sweetest woman you'll ever meet. She has a heart condition that requires expensive medication. Sometimes, I see her cutting the pills in half to make them last longer, but when Chloe comes to visit, it's like the queen has returned. Last month, she breezed into their modest living room. The air suddenly smelled of expensive perfume and arrogance. She was wearing huge sunglasses inside the house and carrying a bright orange Hermes Birkin bag. "Mom! Dad!" she squealed, hugging them without actually touching them, careful not to wrinkle her designer blazer. "Look at you, princess," my dad said, his eyes shining with pride. "Another successful trip?" Chloe dramatically dropped her bag onto the worn-out sofa. "Exhausting, Daddy. Dubai was intense. I closed 3 major deals, and I bought you guys gifts." She pulled out 2 small boxes. For Dad, a silk tie that he would never have an occasion to wear. For Mom, a bottle of anti-aging cream that probably cost more than her monthly heart medication. "You work too hard, baby," Mom said, her voice weak but full of adoration. "You should rest." "I can't rest, Mom," Chloe sighed, checking her phone. "I have an empire to run. By the way, I need to borrow the guest room for a few hours. I have a Zoom call with investors in Tokyo." Of course," Dad said, rushing to clear the newspapers off the coffee table. "Maya, help your sister with her bags." I grabbed the heavy suitcases, Louis Vuitton, naturally. As I hauled them toward the guest room, Chloe stopped me. "Careful with those, Maya," she said, her voice suddenly devoid of the sweet tone she used with Mom and Dad. "That luggage is worth more than your car." I bit my tongue. "Nice to see you too, Chloe." "Look, don't be bitter," she said, flipping her hair. "It's not my fault you chose a boring life. You could have joined my team, you know. I need someone to handle spreadsheets and stuff." "I'm an accountant, Chloe, not a personal assistant." "Whatever. Just don't wake me before noon tomorrow. I have a content shoot." That night, we had dinner. Mom cooked Chloe's favorite, pot roast. Chloe barely touched it. "Too many carbs," she mumbled, pushing the potatoes around her plate while scrolling through TikTok. Dad spent the whole meal bragging about her to an imaginary audience. "Did I tell you, Maya? Chloe was featured in Forbes online last week. 30 under 30 to watch. That's great, Dad, I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. It was a paid placement, Robert, Chloe corrected him without looking up. It's marketing. You wouldn't understand. Well, whatever it is, it's working, Dad beamed. You know, I was telling the guys at the site today. My little girl, she cracked the code. She figured out how to make money without breaking her back. I'm just so proud. He reached out and patted her hand. Chloe let him do it for a second, then pulled her hand away to type a text message. I watched this scene, and a familiar knot formed in my stomach. It wasn't jealousy. I swear, it wasn't. It was fear. Something about Chloe's success didn't add up. I follow her finances, or at least what she shows publicly. Her lifestyle requires millions a year to maintain. But her course? It has bad reviews. Her brand deals are mostly for sketchy crypto apps and fast fashion websites. How is she funding the Lambo, the trips, the Birkin bags? I looked at my dad, tired and worn down, yet looking at his daughter like she was a miracle. I looked at my mom, who couldn't afford her full dose of medicine, but was holding a $300 cream she didn't need. And then Chloe said something that made the hair on my arm stand up. Oh, by the way, Dad, she said casually, taking a sip of water. I might need you to sign something later, just some boring paperwork for a new business entity I'm setting up. It's for tax purposes. My accountant said it's better if it's in a family name. Anything for you, sweetheart, Dad said immediately. You know that. Just show me where to sign. Thanks, Daddy, you're the best. She smiled. It was a perfect, practiced smile, the kind that gets 50,000 likes. But for the first time looking across that dinner table, I didn't see a successful businesswoman. I didn't see an influencer. I saw a predator, and she was sitting right next to her prey. End of part Odin. I didn't sleep that night. The image of my father, ready to sign whatever Chloe put in front of him just to make her smile, kept playing in my head. The next morning, Chloe slept until noon, as promised. When she finally emerged wearing silk pajamas that probably cost more than my monthly rent, she barely acknowledged us. Dad, did you sign those papers? She asked, yawning while pouring herself coffee. Oh, not yet, honey. I left my reading glasses in the garage. Ugh, okay. Well, do it before I leave, okay? My lawyer is waiting. She left that afternoon, a whirlwind of perfume and empty promises, heading back to her high-rise city apartment. My parents went back to their routine, Mom counting her pills, Dad checking the thermostat to make sure the heat wasn't turned up too high. They were living on the edge of poverty, convinced their daughter was a queen. The breaking point happened 3 days later. I stopped by my parents' house to drop off some groceries, the generic brands they liked because they were 50 cents cheaper. The mailman had just left. There was a stack of envelopes on the kitchen table, mostly junk mail, flyers for hearing aids and coupons. But one envelope stood out. It was thick, heavy, and in the top left corner, in stark, threatening letters, it said, Internal Revenue Service, Final Notice. My accountant's heart stopped. Dad, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. What is this? Dad looked up from his newspaper. Oh, that. Probably another mistake. I got one last month, too. I think they mixed me up with someone else. I've paid my taxes every year since 1974. Dad, the IRS doesn't send final notices by mistake. You need to open this. I don't have time for their bureaucracy today, Maya. Chloe said she'd have her accountant look into it for me anyway. Chloe's accountant. Right. I waited until Dad went outside to water the garden. I know what I did next was an invasion of privacy. I know it was wrong, but I had to know. I picked up the envelope. My hands were shaking so badly I almost tore the contents inside. I pulled out the letter. It wasn't a mistake. It was a demand for payment for unpaid business taxes related to an entity called CB Global Ventures LLC. The registered agent for the business? Robert Miller, my father. The amount owed? $52,000. My head started spinning. Dad didn't have a global venture. He fixed carburetors in his garage on weekends for extra cash. I needed more information. I needed to see the full picture. I went to the family computer in the den. It was an old desktop that took 10 minutes to boot up. Dad used it for solitaire and email. I knew their passwords. They used the same one for everything. Chloe's birthday. Of course. I logged into Credit Karma. I needed to see Dad's credit report. When the page loaded, I actually gasped out loud. My father, a man who had never carried a credit card balance in his life, a man who believed debt was a sin, had a credit score of Patsot Dwatsit. His total outstanding debt, $458,000. I clicked on the details. It was like reading a horror story written in numbers. There were 5 credit cards maxed out, all opened in the last 2 years. Amex Platinum, Chase Sapphire Reserve, the cards with high annual fees that offer luxury travel perks. There was a $90,000 auto loan for a luxury performance vehicle. The Lamborghini. It wasn't hers. It was leased in my mother's name. And then, the biggest blow. The one that made me feel physically sick. A home equity line of credit, a HELOC, taken out against their house 6 months ago for $200,000. The money was gone, drained. I sat back in the creaky office chair, staring at the screen until my eyes burned. How? How did she do this without them knowing? Then I saw it. Under the contact information for every single loan, every single credit card, the phone number was a burner phone. The email address wasn't Dad's rusty old AOL account. It was chloemoorebusiness@gmail.com. She had stolen their identities. She set up everything to go to her. The bills, the warnings, the statements, they all went to Chloe. My parents never saw them. They thought they were helping her with paperwork. They were signing their lives away. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. I went to Chloe's page. I started scrolling back. Post from 6 months ago. Chloe in a bikini on a yacht in the Bahamas. Caption: manifested this life. Chitster boss babe, chitster self-made. Cross-reference with bank statements. A $10,000 charge on Dad's HELOC for a private yacht charter in Nassau on the exact same date. Post from 3 months ago. Chloe posing with the green Lamborghini. Caption: bought my dream car cash. Stop making excuses and start making money. Cross-reference with credit report. The lease agreement in Mom's name started 2 days before that post. The down payment was $15,000 charged to the Amex card in Dad's name. It went on and on. The designer clothes, the expensive dinners, the business trips to Vegas. Every single like she got was paid for with my parents' security. She wasn't an influencer. She was a parasite, a vampire feeding on the people who loved her the most, draining them dry so she could sparkle for strangers on the internet. I closed the laptop. The room felt suffocatingly small. Outside the window, I could see my dad tending to his tomato plants. He looked so peaceful. He had no idea that the ground beneath his feet, the house he built with his own hands 40 years ago, was about to be taken by the bank. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Crying wouldn't help them. If I told them now, it would kill them. Mom's heart couldn't take the shock. Dad's pride would be shattered irreparably. No, I couldn't just tell them. I had to stop her. I had to make sure she could never, ever do this to anyone again. My phone buzzed. It was an Instagram notification. Chloe had just gone live. "Hey guys," her voice chirped through my phone speaker, full of fake enthusiasm. "Just a reminder, tomorrow is the big day. My live masterclass, How to Build a Seven-Figure Empire, is happening at Vosum PM. I'm going to share secrets I've never told anyone before. You do not want to miss this." I watched her smile at the camera. It was the smile of a sociopath. "Tomorrow," I whispered to the empty room. I wasn't going to miss her masterclass. In fact, I was going to be the star student. The accountant was done counting. It was time for an audit. A very, very public audit. End of part 2. I spent the next 24 hours preparing. I wasn't just an accountant anymore. I was a forensic auditor putting together a criminal case. I compiled everything into a single presentation: the IRS letter, the credit reports, the car lease agreement in my mom's name, and side-by-side comparisons of her Instagram posts with the corresponding fraudulent bank charges. At 7:55 p.m., I logged into Chloe's masterclass. The virtual waiting room was packed. 12,000 people, 12,000 potential victims ready to hand over their money to a fraud. Chloe appeared on screen at Vosum. 9 p.m. sharp, sitting in a rented studio designed to look like a luxury office. She was wearing a white power suit, her hair perfectly styled. "Welcome, future millionaires," she beamed, her voice slick with practiced charisma. "Tonight, I'm going to show you how I built my empire from nothing, so you can do the same. Are you ready to change your lives?" The chat flooded with "yes" and fire emojis. "The first step," Chloe continued, clicking a remote to bring up a slide titled "The Mindset Shift," "is believing that you deserve abundance. You have to stop thinking poor to stop being poor. I remember when I bought my Lamborghini." That was my cue. I had access to her Zoom account because, as I suspected, she hadn't changed her password. I wasn't just an attendee. I was in co-host. I clicked share screen. Chloe's slide on mindset disappeared. In its place, a stark, black and white document filled the screen. "What the?" Chloe's smile faltered. She clicked her remote frantically, but nothing happened. The document was the IRS Final Notice for CB Global Ventures, addressed to my father. Then the screen changed again. My credit report summary: Robert Miller, credit score, 520, total debt, $458,000. The chat went dead silent for a second. Then chaos erupted. "What is this? Is that her dad's credit?" "She's a fraud," Chloe stared at the monitor, her face draining of color. "There seems to be a technical difficulty," she stammered, her voice rising in panic. "Someone is hacking the stream. My team is handling it." "No one is hacking you, Chloe," I said into my microphone, unmuting myself. My voice boomed through 12,000 speakers. Chloe looked around wildly. "Who is that? Maya, what are you doing?" I turned on my camera. I was sitting in my parents' dim, outdated kitchen. The contrast with her studio was jarring. "I'm doing what you should have done a long time ago," I said, looking directly into the lens. "I'm telling the truth." I clicked to the next slide, a split screen. On the left, Chloe posing on the yacht with the caption, "Chakran self-made." On the right, a bank statement showing a $10,000 charge to our dad's HELOC for luxury yacht charters. "This is Chloe's empire," I said to the stunned audience. "It's not built on passive income, it's built on active theft. She stole the identity of her 68-year-old father. She drained the equity from her parents' home, the home they've lived in for 40 years. She bought that white suit you're admiring with a credit card opened in her sick mother's name. Chloe was hyperventilating now. Stop it. You're lying. You're just jealous. Am I? I pulled up the final slide. The foreclosure warning from the bank. This arrived yesterday, Chloe. Mom and Dad are 30 days away from being homeless because of you. Is that part of the boss babe blueprint? Chloe didn't answer. She just stared at the screen, her jaw slack. The chat was a blur of rage and demands for refunds. I looked back at her. The filter was gone. The lighting couldn't hide the panic in her eyes. The masterclass is over, Chloe, I said softly. I ended the stream. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. I knew what I had to do next. The hardest part. I walked into the living room where my parents were watching TV. Mom, Dad, I said, my voice trembling. We need to talk. It's about Chloe. The next few hours were the worst of my life. The denial, the confusion, and then the crushing realization. My strong, proud father wept with his head in his hands. My mother just stared at the wall, clutching her chest, unable to speak. We went to the police the next morning. The fraud detective was kind but blunt. It's a common story, he said. Elder financial abuse, usually committed by family. Chloe was arrested 2 days later at her high-rise apartment. It was an Airbnb she was renting by the week. The Lamborghini was repossessed. My parents, they are survivors, but they are broken. We are fighting the banks, trying to prove fraud to save the house. It's going to be a long, expensive battle. I'm selling everything I own, and we're selling everything Chloe bought just to keep the lights on. Why am I telling you this? Because this channel is called Twisted Trust, and this is the darkest twist of all. The biggest threat to your financial future might not be a stranger on the internet. It might be the person sitting across from you at Thanksgiving dinner. So here is the lesson. The one thing I wish I had done years ago. Freeze your credit, right now. Go to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. It's free. It takes 10 minutes. Freeze your reports. It means no one, not even you, can open a new line of credit in your name without a PIN. It stops identity theft dead in its tracks. If I had done that for my parents, Chloe would have hit a brick wall the first time she tried to open a card in their name. We would still have our home. My parents would still have their dignity. Don't wait until you see the red flags. By then, it's already too late. Trust your family, love your family, but verify everything and freeze your credit. Because the only thing worse than being broke is being broke because the person you loved the most stole your future to buy themselves a lie. End of story.